Okay, it's a few hours later. The putting these factory coil springs in is a pain. I've done the lower ones on a couple of Mustangs, not quite as bad, but still a pain. This side's done. I've still got to go in and pull the piece of the coil spring compressor out. But I don't know if you can tell on this side, these springs bow, and they bow towards the outside. So when you're trying to get it back in, you tighten them down, and the spring's straight, it doesn't want to go back in. I used a jack with a block of wood, got the spring with the compressor, and I still couldn't get it. So I ended up putting 2 pieces of board in there and turning the steering wheel and pushing the spring back into where it's seated. Pain, just tell you, royal pain. But hey, I didn't get hurt. My car's back together. Now all I've got left to do for this is tighten up the ball joint nuts, torque them to the spec, and since these don't use a Carter pin, I definitely want to make sure I get them to spec, and put the sway bar end links in, and then I'll be able to take it and get the front end aligned. But before I do that, I've been having an issue. The car, you'll see where I stripped this wire back to excite the wire. The alternator quit charging on me. Middle of the night the other night was working fine, then quit. Not the first time I've had the issue. So what I have done is in one of these bags is the new electrical portion of the ignition, and the other one is a new key switch, because the key for this car will go in and out with the car on or off, so it doesn't want to latch either. And I've been having trouble with the ignition getting it to start, so I've been having to turn the switch on and jump the solenoid because the starter isn't clicking. So I'm really thinking it's in the electrical connection under the dash. They're known to come apart. Well, I appreciate you watching CC's Garage, and I'll see you in the next one. Welcome back to CC's Garage. I chased down my charging issue, pulled out the factory wiring diagram I've got, went through, and even replacing the ignition switch like I was going to do didn't solve the issue, although putting the new ignition switch in did solve a couple other issues. The car will now lock the steering wheel, lock the key, which it wasn't before. You could just take and turn the key with the old lock in there. But I owned everything out, did a continuity test. Basically, you find one end of the wire, the other end, and you touch your ohm meter to it, and it'll make a beeping noise when you're on both sides of the line. Checked the fuse inside, checked everything else, and it actually started working for a few minutes. Even when I put the ignition switch in, it started working. The battery light will come on. Well, then I start putting it back in, and I notice the light's going in and out, in and out, and you could jiggle it. Well, I checked the wiring, it wasn't in the wiring. Come around and got to looking at my circuit board, and I'll pull this off better and show you, but over here, the circuit board's delaminating. It's a printed circuit board. You can see how the wire connectors are starting to come up. And the one for the charging light is the, find it here, is like the 6 pin. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This one. See? And when I got to looking, it was pushing it over to the side like that. So I went on MPD and I bought a new printed circuit board. I've had replaced the one in my 92 before, so this will be my second one I've replaced. I'm going to get you set up here and show you how we get into it. Of course, we'll be pulling. You pull all your lights out. Which, this car is a 94, so what? 20, 30 years old, so it doesn't surprise me the circuit board's starting to come apart. But you pull out all your indicator lights, turn signal lights, backlighting. This right here that I'm pulling out now is the, it's supposed to, they call it an anti-slosh board. It's supposed to, when the fuel lever moves back and forth going around the curves, it equalizes that out to where your fuel gauge doesn't bounce everywhere. Now, to get this the rest of the way out, we've got to get these little pins out. Well, these little pins are what holds in each one of your gauges, the electrical connection on that. So, I'm going to be pulling the face off here, pulling the board out, and then pulling all the gauges out. That way it'll release the clips in the back to make it easier to pull out, because I don't want to mess up this new circuit board, because this new circuit board was $102. By the time you paid shipping and everything, it was a little over $120. But having the car that charges, you got to spend the money, and that was an MPD was the only place I could find it. So I'm gonna cut you off, grab the tools, pull the gauge face off, and we'll get this out of here and go from there. Okay, on these, you can use either I think 7's too big, yeah. 7's too big. It's a 6mm, well, 5.5mm socket, or a T15 Torx bit. Nice thing is doing this on the back of the car. I've got the service manual sitting here in the wiring diagram. But I'm also able to use my rear spoiler. It's got a lip on it just to lay everything out on it while I do it, to keep from losing my lights, my screws. So this video won't be coming out this week. It'll be coming out next week, which this will be my 50th video on my channel. I guess that's a little bit of a milestone. The one coming out this week is the second part where I went to the run to the sun. Okay. Gauge phase off. And the gauges, just clip over these little pins to hold them on, and then with the clips I showed you in the back, I get in here, screwdriver, pull up. Those little metal clips I was showing you are the pin that I catch on those pins. I've got one more screw here that holds in the speedometer and the tach and the odometer. Okay. Okay. You got to remove the gauges on either side to get this to come out. And here, you can see the little clips I've got to pull out to replace the circuit board. So let me grab a pair of pliers. Well, I don't even need a pair of pliers. Well, I'm learning this as we do. I mean, as you are watching me do it. Okay. Okay. There we go. I get this first one out, I'll show you what. Yeah, there we go. Okay. As you can see, set up to snap. Just go around that pin and hold it. Well, the way it's held into the plastic is it has these two wings that come out once it's in there. You've got to squeeze it squeezes all in together, and you've got to squeeze the two outer wings in far enough to get around the plastic here to push them back out. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Counting the one I've already got, there is 19 of these to pull out. I don't think you want to sit here and watch me pull them all out. So I'll bring you back when I get them all out, and we'll lay the two circuit boards out side by side for you to get a better look. Okay, I'm down to the last two. I went and got a small set of needle nose pliers. I just come in, catch both sides of those little wings, squeeze it together, push it back. Worked a lot easier than the first way I started doing it. And there are locator pins on the back here to hold this circuit board in place. Now, one way you can tell the difference in these is looking at the color difference. Right here, you get a better idea of what I was talking about the, every one of these is starting to delaminate, especially over on this side. And if those connections aren't made, then anything that they're going to is not going to be working right. So we will set you here, lay that right there, get the camera set back up, and we'll start putting this back together. Just slipping right back down over the pins. And we'll just start taking the clips. And all I do is just push right back down in the little grooves. I do like one thing about this car having an electronic speedometer is most time right here where this motor goes, there'd be a cable going in that you'd have to unhook from the back of the speedometer, which makes these dashes harder to get in and out. You take my old truck out there, or even my 93 Fox body out there, you start messing with those, done doing that, you don't have a lot of room to work back there, but so by the time you get it done, your arm's all scratched up and scarred up and everything else. The bigger ones are your illumination lights. And then the little ones are your warning lights. I know this bulb's good. It's one I had in there. This is the battery light or the amp light, the check engine, the overdrive, an alarm light, which this car doesn't have alarm, low coolant, airbag module, your brake, your anti-lock brake, if you've got that low oil indicator, and a lovely seatbelt light. And then up here you have your left, your right turn signal, and your high beam indicator. And we'll start putting the metal gauge back in place first. Now, part of what holds this one in, other than the pins in the back, it's just a little force, is when I put the faceplate back on, 2 of the screws go right through it. And you cannot put these on backwards because of the design in the get it lined up here, because there's only one way they're designed to go in. Get the faceplate put back on. I have changed the faceplate on here in the past. When I bought this car, this lens was so scratched up you couldn't see nothing out of it or through it. It was just hazy and all that. I think people that done it before me had a little bit of an issue with illicit substances. You know, I found paraphernalia in the car, which is an interesting thought. If you buy a car and you find and you get pulled over and it get on the way home, and you don't do anything that's illicit in use or whatever, but yet there's something found in the car, I wonder how you would get out of trouble, because you know nobody's going to believe you. You're in this country, it seems like you're guilty instead of proven innocent, instead of innocent and still proven guilty. But I digress. It's just one of those things that makes you go, huh? Or maybe it just makes me go, huh, nobody else. And the last thing here that I can do before I put it back in the car is put the anti-slosh module in. I will put this back in the dash. I'll hook up the wires. Get that bent over in there, and this one bent over in there. Probably should have done that. I'll get the wire and harnesses hooked back up, and then we'll flip the switch on, make sure that light's coming on. I can jiggle the wire and harness, and it doesn't, the amp light doesn't go off, or battery light doesn't go off. And if it works right, then I can probably start driving my car again once I do just finish a few little odds ends, putting it back together, and get the front end alignment done. So let me get you cut off here, and I'll get this stuck in the dash. Okay, I don't have it secure yet, but in there, but I got the wire and harness it back up. We'll be watching right there where my finger is for the red light to come on. And actually, I cut the wrong thing off. Cut this light off instead. There we go. So the light's glowing red. Jiggling the harness, it's not going off. All that caused my car to quit running one night on the way home, and I had to get help pushed out of the road. Sat there for a couple of hours. It was cold. Luckily, I was right by a gas station. The battery charged back up. I was able to pull in there and go online and just keep looking till I was able to figure out what was going on. At first, I thought the bulb would burn out, so I was going to pull it, and did not have the right Torx bit to get the dash out. So I ended up breaking the dash getting it out. So I'll go get me some 2-part epoxy and glue both of these pieces back in here and right in here. And which I know the 2-part epoxy weren't doing that. There's these 2 screws here were broke out when I got the car, and I used the black 2-part plastic epoxy and remade the holders for those. So with that part done, all I've got left to do to finish this up is to come back around here where I did what I did in the parking lot to get the car home that night. Got a guy to jump me off. That's the wire that the light excites. So what I ended up doing is pulling it over and wrapping it to the back side of the charging terminal off the alternator. Got me home, and I didn't have to call a tow truck. So that was probably $150, anywhere from $150 to $300, $350 savings. So I greatly appreciate you watching CC's Garage. Again, this is my 50th episode. I've not been doing this quite a year yet. I'm trying to get better, and hopefully it'll all work out and I can keep doing it. But thank you again. Please like, share, and subscribe. Have a good day.